Magic Emperor Chapter 875. At the Double Dragon Manor's heaven-reaching hall, 3 elders and the investigative crew were kneeling before the Double Dragon Supremes to report on the absolute horror that had just gone down. Even though they made it back in one piece, you could still see the pure terror and trauma lingering in their eyes. Supremes, that 9 Serenity Overlord is seriously something way beyond anything we could have imagined. The guy was over 1,000 feet tall, with his head literally touching the clouds and his feet planted so firmly that you couldn't even see the top of his head from a distance. The senior was draped in swirling black flames that looked like they were ready to incinerate the entire sky. His eyes glowed like stars, each with a 30-foot radius, giving off this icy glare that would make anyone's skin crawl. Hearing this wild report, the 2 Supremes were stunned, and just sat there, soaking in every detail. Once the story wrapped up, the 2 leaders traded looks of doubt and pure unease. Supreme Heiran still couldn't believe what he was hearing, so he frowned, thought for a second, and pushed for more. How can anyone be over 1,000 feet tall with eyes 30 feet wide? Who the hell is this guy you're actually talking about? The room went dead silent, and the 3 elders just looked at each other, forced to give a helpless, bitter smile. Honestly, they totally expected the Supremes to be this blown away. To be fair, if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they'd have a hard time believing such a terrifying being even existed. Supremes, everything we were saying is 100 true because we saw it ourselves, no exaggeration, period. If you were still skeptical, just ask the disciples who were there to back us up. They were all right there and felt that guy's insane pressure firsthand. It was honestly traumatizing. Elder let out a heavy sigh, bowed his head, and kept going. The legendary heaven and earth righteousness sect was wiped out in a heartbeat, turned into a total inferno with 0 survivors. We watched the whole tragedy unfold from beginning to end. That senior's power was on a whole different level, like someone who's been training for over 300,000 years. There probably isn't anyone on this entire continent strong enough to take him on, not even the invincible Sword Supreme. But it looks like the Heavenly Demon Mountain has been laying low for so long that their people hardly ever show up around here. If a powerhouse like that had shown up sooner, the invincible Sword Supreme definitely wouldn't be acting so cocky right now. The 2 Supremes stared at the group for a long while, clearly still doubting the whole thing. It was just tough to swallow a story this wild and bizarre. How could anyone in the world actually have such ridiculous, godlike power? But, seeing how dead serious they were and remembering Zhuo Fan's talent since he's someone who can train top-tier disciples, they figured his master had to be a total beast. After thinking it over, the 2 Supremes traded nods, mostly buying into the story now. Even if the 9 Serenity Overlord wasn't literally 1,000 feet tall and just used some technique to change his size, he was clearly a top-tier powerhouse. Otherwise, there's no way he could be shut down 3 soul-returning stage experts that fast. They realized it was probably best not to stake their noses into the Heavenly Demon Mountain's revenge if they wanted to stay out of trouble. Once he'd processed everything, Supreme Heiran waved them off and said calmly, "It doesn't look like this mess was caused by outsiders from other continents. Our western province is still in the clear for now, so let's just act like nothing happened. Those 5 sects got wiped out because they messed with the wrong person and brought it on themselves. There's no reason for us to pick a fight with a terrifying force over those guys. It's just not worth risking the stability of the province. Elder Do, go tell the other sects right now that the investigation is closed, and this wasn't an interprovincial hit. Also, remind them to watch their step and stop acting like they own the place just because they're in a sect. Who knows if there are other scary as hell forces like the Heavenly Demon Mountain hiding in the shadows." "Got it, I'll get right on it." Elder Do gave a respectful bow and headed out. Watching Elder Do leave, Supreme Bai Mai thought for a bit and asked, "Forget about those sects getting what was coming to them, but how are we going to handle the power vacuum they left behind? That's a real headache right there. The Western Province is huge, and losing 5 out of 9 sects leaves a lot of territory completely up for grabs. If we don't handle this right, those spots are going to be wide open for trouble to sneak in." Heiran added worriedly, "We can't mess with the Heavenly Demon Mountain, but this hit is massive and it's trashing the stability we've had for ages." The people kneeling there could only sigh when they heard that. Everyone knew that losing 5 sects wasn't just about losing muscle, it was about losing control. Especially since both the upper and middle 3 sects were gone, leaving a giant hole in the map. Keep in mind, the upper 3 sects were responsible for guarding the borders and keeping an eye on the big empires to protect us from other provinces. Even the Heaven Walking sect, despite being lower tier, was in charge of watching over the Tianwu region and the nearby countries. Now that the beast taming sect is gone too, the Quan Ron Empire is basically unprotected. Just like that, a fifth of the Western Province is no longer under the 9 sects' control. This is a major threat to the whole province's security, and puts the remaining sects in a really tight spot. If the middle province finds this weak spot, and attacks, the western province is toast. Getting the defense system back up is the one priority, and it's got the two supremes stressed out of their minds. Elder O thought for a second, and then threw an idea out to the supremes. Sirs, those empty territories are huge, but we could break them up. How about we just let the remaining 4 sects take over the extra land? That's not gonna work, we can't do it that way. Supreme Hayran shut him down immediately. The 9 sects territories have always been split based on how much power they actually have. If we force the last 4 sects to cover more ground, they'll struggle to run things, and will have to spread their people way too thin. Don't forget the hard lesson we learned from that mess with the demon scheming sect. Elder shivered as he realized he'd messed up and hung his head in shame. Yeah, I totally overshot with that suggestion, my bad. How could he forget such a basic rule? Peace in the western province is built on checks and balances between the 9 sects, not on them actually being friends. If one sect tries to go rogue, the other 8 will team up and wipe them out instantly. A sect's strength comes from keeping its forces concentrated so they can keep things under control. If you scatter your troops to guard other places, there's no guarantee the guy in charge won't decide to start a rebellion. Especially with how messy things are right now, splitting up forces is just asking for outsiders to attack. Back then, Sai Wuyu even teamed up with outsiders just because he was power hungry. So, if a sect gets split up, you would basically guarantee to have a civil war. Thinking about the fallout, Elderu broke into a cold sweat, and totally regretted opening his mouth. He almost tanked the entire foundation of the western province. Supreme Hayran knew he meant well, so he didn't punish him, but he still looked incredibly stressed. In the middle of that tense vibe, Wu Qingqiu thought it over and spoke up. Supremes, I've got a small suggestion, if you'll let me share it. Go ahead, don't hold back. Supreme Hayran kept it short. Wu Qingqiu said calmly, the 9 sects all have their own turf, and know their areas inside out, like the ultimate local powerhouses. The 2 supremes looked at him curiously, not quite sure where the kid was going with this. Sirs, 5 of those 9 powers are gone now. Instead of bringing in some outside force to run things, why don't we just pick and back a local group to help us protect the western province? So what you're saying is, the 2 supremes traded looks, starting to catch Wu Qingqiu's drift. Exactly. We should build up some promising new groups to fill the shoes of the 5 sects we lost. Wu Qingqiu gave a confident smile. But honestly, is there anyone out there right now actually capable of handling the massive responsibility of a sect? Supremes, I can promise you there's a group that can handle it. When I was in Tianwu recently, I saw that the Luo Alliance is growing at a crazy pace. Their leader isn't just sharp, he really knows how to win people over and has the public's full support. The Luo Alliance is packed with talent, and a bunch of experts from the demon scheming sect have even jumped ship to join them. If they get the backing of Double Dragon Manor, I'm betting the Luo Alliance will blow up and be more than capable of holding down a region for us. Supreme Hayran looked at Wu Qingqiu, and then turned to the other disciples. What's your take on this idea? We're all in. We 100 back the Luo Alliance. The disciples, including Yanmo, Ilin, and Wen Tao, all answered together without missing a beat. This total agreement caught the 2 supremes completely off guard. They couldn't figure out why these kids were so hyped about the Luo Alliance. Still, any group that could get these cocky geniuses to vouch for them must have something special going for them. Supreme Hayran turned to Eldero and told him, go ahead and set up a trip to check out the situation for yourself. If they were actually as promising as these guys say, bringing them into the 9 sects would be a win for the western province. It. Eldero respectfully took the assignment. After that, they wrapped up a few other things and everyone headed out.